good, guys? Welcome to the video. Today we're checking out the craziest philosophical theories explained in 14 minutes. Let's get into it. You know what I be? I really love philosophy.
Experiment that suggests that given enough time, a self-aware brain could randomly form in the universe due to quantum fluctuations. This hypothetical brain has memories and perceptions of really living in a structured reality, even though it is just a temporary, random occurrence in a chaotic universe.
You're telling me just like a random brain in the world.
For the universe to exist with all its complexity, or for a single brain with false memories to appear randomly. If the latter is more probable, it implies that everything you experience might just be a brief hallucination by a Boltzmann brain. Solipsism. Solipsism is the idea that only your own mind can be known for sure to
that one was like that one's kind of like
it implies that everything you experience might just be a brief hallucination by a Boltzmann brain. So
it's saying that like in my existence right now could just be a brain floating in the middle. I mean, ultimately I'm still human. Like even if it was true, that one still doesn't really do too much.
Solipsism is the idea that only your own mind can be known for sure to exist. According to this theory,
the
outside world, other people, objects, and events cannot be definitely proven to exist beyond your own perception. This is because all experiences are subjective, meaning they are understood through your individual mind. So while you may see and interact with the world, solipsism questions if the—
That one's freaking wild. Solipsism is definitely one that I could say that I was on like the brink of thinking about, or like I have thought about in a sense, because it kind of closely relates to the other thought process where everyone around you only lives in their own reality. So for example, like not only lives in their own reality, because that's solipsism, but basically I live here and I'm alive, and every moment where I could have died, I lived. And so no matter how sick you get, no matter where you go, no matter the close accidents, no matter all these situations, if you like, you'll continue living them and you'll continue staying alive, while everyone else in the world will continue to die because they're living the same exact thought process like you. So they're living in their own reality, and every instance where they could have died, they lived. In every instance where you could have died, you lived in your own mind. So they'll die to you, but they're still alive and still moving on, because the conscious always has to live is the mindset, which is insane. And then this one closely relates to that. It's just this thought process that everything around you is fake. So for me right now, this could all be fake. This could all just, it's kind of similar to simulation thing as well, but it's more or less just like, it's just fake. It's just not real. Like I'm just thinking that everything is real because it's how do I know these people are actually real and not just like not there? Like they're acting as the way they're acting for me in a sense. Damn. Main character syndrome right there.
The world actually exists on its own, or if it's all just created by your mind. You have no way to know. The teletransportation paradox. The teletransportation paradox is a thought experiment that explores the implications of teleportation and identity. Imagine a teleportation device that scans a person's entire body and mind, mapping every atom and neural connection. The device then transmits this information to another location, where a new identical body is constructed, perfectly replicating the original person.
But what's like the iteration behind this?
Personality. The paradox arises.
The fact that our feelings are basically hormones and chemical reactions may make life feel so fake. Yeah, but even if they are a transcription of like even if they are whittled down to science, they are still, there's a lot of things that science can't explain, and there's many instances of that. Do I have proof right now? No, but I'm sure I could find it if I really cared. But I do agree. It is interesting that you can have the outlook that life is like you can have the outlook that the life is meaningless and pointless in every single fashion, in every statement. But you could also look on the actuality of it is even though they may be a chemical reaction and just hormones, you're still feeling them. It doesn't matter if there's like an entire science behind it. Those are still things you feel. It literally doesn't matter. It's the same thing as if fate existed. It wouldn't matter if fate existed, because we're still doing things. Even if they were predetermined, there's still things that we have the thought process of saying that we're doing. Now, if fate was proven to exist, then it would be a little bit different if you could find your own fate, because then you would have no point to live your life because you know exactly where it's going. But then wouldn't that technically be preconceived as the fate that existed, because you're supposed to find? It's such a fucking convoluted concept, because if you know your fate and you know that you're fated to do this, then what if I just shoot myself? Would I live still? Would I still continue to live because fate tells me? Is it fated that I find out that it's fate? Like there's so many different levels to certain things. Like that entire like sentence that I just sounded like it was a fucking like word puzzle that you have to figure out and see. Like it's like a riddle, and it's like there's a definite answer to it, but there isn't an actual answer to it. It's just fate. But fate, if fate exists, is it fated to find out that fate exists? If you do find out that exists, and if you do find out that it exists and you find out your fate, does it mean that this was the fated situation? It's crazy.
When considering what happens during this
The
process.
fact that you're gonna die by shooting yourself or something. Yeah, but what if you don't? What if That it's crazy, man. But then if you find out the fact that you're gonna shoot yourself, then would you shoot yourself? How do you why would you shoot yourself? That would be the one thing you don't do. And then wouldn't that be the thing you find out that you're fated to do? It's like, what? Like if you found out your own fate, it wouldn't be something simple like that. And then if you did try to kill yourself, they would know that you're not going to, and it would just be a bluff. I don't know.
The person who arrives at the destination, the same individual who entered the teleportation machine, if the original person is disassembled at the point of departure.
If the brain concept is the same and has the same memories and same everything and the same personality, then yes.
Is that person effectively killed? If so,
no.
Then the new person created at the destination, while identical in every way, is technically a different individual.
No.
The egg theory. The egg theory is a thought experiment that suggests that every person who has ever lived or ever will live is actually...
Apparently you can go from 0 to
W-ad.
just a single prompt with Wix Harmony.
Bro, I'm gonna have to go back and edit all those moments I thought were funny. Fuck, that sucks.
Experiencing life in different forms and at different times. The theory proposes that when a person dies,
this is the theory. Oh, yeah. I heard this theory. This is actually one that I was interested in. I was going to read a book similar to it. Basically, it means when you die, you're born into another life, and you have to live every life and every moment in the world, like, before you can actually pass on.
Incarnated as another person without any memory of their previous lives. This process,
maybe I'm a little
according
loud,
to the theory, the universe exists as an egg, a place for this single being to grow and mature through the experience of living many lives. Once all
so it's saying, okay, so the egg theory is that you live every single life in existence, all 8 billion lives, but you don't know that you're living another life. Weird.
Lives have been lived. The individual reaches a higher state of consciousness and becomes like a god, completing their spiritual evolution.
It's possible, but I don't know. That one sounds dumb.
Is designed for growth and evolution, so too is every business. In my opinion,
like that one.
Can't really manage to do so efficiently without today's sponsor, Odoo. Odoo is a business management software that includes...
Just slid that one in there, huh, buddy?
Each of all of this gets... The omnipotence paradox is a thought experiment that challenges the concept of omnipotence, or unlimited power. It asks whether an all-powerful being like God could create a stone so heavy that even they cannot lift it. The dilemma arises because both possible answers seem to limit the being's power.
Well, yeah, if they're omnipotent, that wouldn't... Well, that wouldn't make any sense. How would that exist? How would there be something so... If something's omnipotent, right, and they create something... then why would they not be able to change that creation unless that creation went ahead and evolved beyond the omnipotence of another thing? It's not going to be able to create something. It's like saying a master blacksmith can create an impossible weapon. That's not true, because just because they're a master blacksmith, it doesn't mean they can create the impossible. And I'm meaning impossible, not nothing's ever impossible, literally. That you can't create something that's stronger than you are. You can create something that becomes stronger than you are, but that is not, there's no way a being, it's not physically possible for a being who is omnipotent to create something that they cannot move. That is like saying, like, for example, here, we'll just put this in the preface, right? Because humans can invent things and we can do things, right, all this. And we obviously can't move cars. We invented cars. But we're not creating one solid object or one solid person or thing that is stronger than us, because it is not possible. The reason we don't just give birth to full fucking form adults is because it doesn't make any sense. Will they become adults and maybe become stronger than us? Yes, but they are originally babies. Hence why it is possible for an omnipotent creature or thing to create, or an omnipotent being to create something that becomes stronger than them, but will not start out stronger than them. That makes no sense.
If the being can create the stone, they cannot lift it, which means there's something they cannot do. This implies a limit to their power, contradicting the idea of being all-powerful. On the other hand, if they cannot create such a stone, this also indicates a limitation, as they are unable to do something
so you're basically saying, because they can't create well, no, if you're gonna say they're all powerful, then why would that doesn't make any sense. There's obviously a limit to their power. They can't create another one of them. That wouldn't make any sense, because if they create another one of them, or like if they create somebody who is stronger than them, then they are not the omnipotent. Like, can you have multiple omnipotent beings? Can only belong to one single entity. Exactly. So the concept of there, and this is pretty easy to debunk, is an omnipotent, if the omnipotent being is able to create somebody who is stronger than them, they then lose the title of being an omnipotent being because that person becomes the omnipotent being. So if they create something that is stronger than them and are not able to move it, that thing then becomes the omnipotent being or omnipotent thing. That is how that concept works. Just because something, it's the same thing as you being the strongest person in the entire world. It doesn't mean somebody will never be stronger than you. It just means at that current moment you are stronger than everyone else. So if there is an omnipotent being and they are all powerful and they're the most powerful thing in the entire universe, we'll say, right? The most powerful, and they create something that is less powerful than them but has the ability to be more powerful than them, then they will lose their omnipotence once that thing becomes more powerful than them, and they will not be all powerful. Hence why they cannot make something past their own power, because just because you are omnipotent, there's no physical possible way to know what's beyond your power. Your power is your power, and your power stays the limit. Like, there is a limiter, yes, but all powerful doesn't mean unlimited power. It just means I'm the most powerful in the world. It doesn't mean I can't, and it's only at the current moment. I think omnipotence doesn't state that you're the most powerful forever. It's only in the instance that you are the most powerful.
But God might be over logic itself. Or one might say that by omnipotent, we mean a being that can do anything that is logically possible. Being all-powerful doesn't mean doing logically impossible.
Exactly. There's also that. If we're taking the word omnipotence, there's no way humans as a whole could fathom the concept of the omnipotent being that exists. But I will also state that just because, like, if we're taking human knowledge, then my logic will make complete sense, because it just means that just because you're omnipotent, it doesn't mean something else can't be something else can't take that spot. Like, just because you're number one now doesn't mean you're number one later. It doesn't mean it'll be right away. It doesn't mean it'll be even anytime soon in any way, shape, or form. But you get a billion, trillion, gazillion years, it's possible if you're taking in human physicality and knowledge. But if it's not, and this is beyond our logic, we won't understand this no matter how hard we try.
Possible things like
but
creating a square circle.
It's also human knowledge that came up with the word omnipotent.
Logical impossibilities.
So then it goes,
like a square circle aren't real things that can exist, so it remains just a cool debunked thought experiment.
A square circle doesn't exist to us because we have no way to fathom on how to create that. But an omnipotent being is all powerful, which means they could literally create any creation they wanted and make it work. A square circle, mind you, by the way, is just our iteration of naming something a square and a circle. That is literally and languages have come from humans. I hate that concept. We came up with the words. We came up with the objects, and they existed and we named them. It doesn't mean you can't come up with one. Scientifically, humans can't.
Anti-natalism is a philosophical position that argues against giving birth, suggesting that it is morally wrong to bring new individuals into existence because life itself inherently involves suffering, pain, and hardship. So it is better not to create new lives.
Are you what?
That will inevitably face these challenges. One key argument in anti-natalism is that coming into existence exposes individuals to more suffering than joy.
Let me ask you a question. If something exists, right? If you create a baby and you have a baby, that baby wouldn't exist. So the concept of them ever experiencing anything is null. Yes, they may experience more suffering, but I'd rather have parents and have them die so that I experience that happiness or even a momentary second of feelings and emotions than have no parents and never understand that feeling. And that is the concept that you're saying. You're saying that it's better to never let the baby experience it than to let the baby experience it. Now, that isn't being said that they will experience more suffering, but even that in itself is something of an emotion, and it sucks and it hurts, and that will hurt so many people, and they will say they don't want to exist. But what you truly don't understand is that existence is a gift itself. The fact that we exist and so many other planets show no existence is unreal. We would and I understand, you can say the concept of, oh, you're just hurting the baby and shut the fuck up. That is so fucking stupid. You're so fucking weird.
Not worth it.
Yes, they're gonna feel pain. Protect them. Make them happy.
Ethical implications of overpopulation, arguing that it contributes to suffering not just for individuals.
I mean, yeah. What are you gonna do?
But for society,
that's a different topic. Overpopulation is different than giving birth to babies, because there are people who have 46 babies in their goddamn family. Like, how are you still alive? But that does not mean overpopulation could not be figured out if we limited the children. Give it 1, 2, maybe 3 children max.
Whole.
While blocking the existence of a soul might protect it from harm, it will also take away the possible good moments that they could have experienced. Exactly. The entire iteration behind that is that you're literally saying, well, I don't want them to experience anything. But so like, and then you're like, oh, wow. So you don't want them to be hurt ever. But then my response would be, no, I don't want them to be hurt ever, but I also don't want them to experience any happiness at all. They're nothing. They are the embodiment of nothing. Imagine you were laying down, right? And you didn't wake up. You stopped dreaming. You just didn't wake up. You're gone. You're gone. You're just off the face of the earth. It's as there's no comparison to that because there is nothing for you to understand there. You are nothing. There's no, it's not you go to sleep and you stop dreaming. No, because even when you're sleeping, you have this mentality of I'm still alive. I'm still existing. It's the same explanation as if you die. You don't exist. So what you're saying is you want that child who's not existing now and never will exist to never get that could have existed, mind you, simply because you don't want them to be hurt when they could have experienced something and then became nothing again. Ultimately, at the end of the day, the argument against this is life doesn't really have a meaning, but life doesn't have a meaning after you're dead, and life doesn't have a meaning in the before you're born. But when you're born and living, there's a reason to be alive. So like, there's no reason not to have such a kid, in my opinion, unless you don't want to.
You are not free. This theory about the
I've heard
absence
this.
of free will from human life suggests that individuals have the ability to make choices and take actions based on their desires. However, they do not have the ability to control the will behind any of their actions, thus making them a slave to their own desires. In order to prove this theory, the following thought experiment...
I think the meaning of life is helping others, other lives or leaving something behind that benefits humanity, but it's how I feel, though. Yeah, exactly. And that's just difference of opinion for anybody who believes differently than you do. I do think that you can have reasons to believe, like I think the reasons to life are for that person to find their own reasons to live. Nobody can tell you why you are alive or tell you what you live for, because you are you and nobody else is you. And that at the end of the day is the only thing that matters. What you believe and what your heart believes is the truth. Now, if you believe in something malicious or you want to harm another person, that is a totally different direction, and you should get some help, or you should not. Like that is a totally different concept. You don't have to help people, but to blatantly hurt somebody else ultimately is still believing what you want to live for. Is it wrong and it's bad? Yes, but it also brings into the concept of, well, I want to do this and I believe this is the reason I want to live. Yeah, your reason for living is absolutely horrendous and wrong, and it's just like this concept of like, I like doing wrong, I like doing right, I don't care, and I just want to live my life. Like, anybody's beliefs and their reason of living is not wrong. The way they live their life and the things they do is wrong. But yeah, that it's like doing wrong is wrong, right? We know that. Doing wrong is wrong, doing right is right, doing nothing is whatever, you're just chilling. But it could be seen as wrong in some people's eyes, which is true and wrong. Life is not just black and white.
Is proposed.
That's all I'll say.
If you're deciding between which ice cream flavor to pick, chocolate or vanilla, and end up deciding that you genuinely want chocolate, there is absolutely nothing you could do in that situation to change that desire.
Yeah, I hate that concept though. You're not free. It does make sense though, because ultimately you're making a decision, and wasn't that decision predetermined in a sense, because you're choosing this over that, but wasn't your decision already made before you did that, because it was already going to happen? It's again the same situation as fate. But if we really do have free will, then all of our choices are our own choices, which I guess if you believe in you are not free, you're kind of you're kind of like taking yourself out of a situation of something you did wrong, which is kind of stupid. So I'm gonna have to go, might come back in a bit, but keep spreading the wisdom, bro. See ya. Hey, have a good one. I hope you get some good rest, or whatever you are, wherever you are. I hope you get.
For you to do anything is by wanting to do it, which we already determined you cannot control, or by being forced to do it, which you obviously cannot control either, thus proving that free will does not exist.
It's true, but it does, because we choose.
The ship of
I could choose to buy that more expensive thing. I could choose to steal that thing. There's so many different levels of things that you could choose. it's not you're being forced, or I'm choosing to do it. Free will doesn't exist because it's saying that you don't exist, but ultimately I'm choosing to do something. I could say I want to steal it, I could throw it at you, I could throw it at the ground, I could dance on it, I could shake on it, I could do whatever I want to do on it. But you're saying my free will doesn't exist simply because there's a basis of that being locked into that choice you're already going to make. But what if I decided to throw it on the floor, lick it off the floor, lick it off the floor, and then spit it at you? Like, there's so many levels to that you're saying every single one was already predetermined. And if that's the situation, then it doesn't matter, because ultimately my free will still exists because I chose to do that of my own belief. There's no proof that shows that it doesn't exist. And even if it did show that it did exist, it wouldn't matter because I'm still making these choices as I live. I'm still changing my choices. I'm still doing, it does, like, I understand that one, and I get that it can exist, and it does make sense, and ultimately it leads to the fact that free will doesn't exist. But even in that sense, it still does exist, doesn't it?
Thought experiment that
it's weird. It's crazy. It's crazy.
It begins with a ship owned by the hero Theseus, and over time, as the ship sails, its wooden parts decay and are replaced with new ones. Eventually, every original part is replaced, which leads to the central question: is the fully restored ship still the ship of Theseus? To complicate matters, suppose the original parts are gathered and reassembled into a ship. Now, there are two ships, one composed entirely of new materials, and one made of the original components. This scenario showcases how definitions are artificial and not as stable as we think.
I agree with that. But I think that also plays into the sense of pretense, present, and future, like our past, present, and future. Because if I go ahead and say, wow, you have the same part. If somebody takes my computer and use the same parts in my computer, then you have to, you can't just generalize every situation with one definition. And I do agree with that. They're not as predetermined, and that's correct. Yo, let's go. Welcome to the stream, Soupy. 1 ton Soupy. I like that. What's good, Soupy? How you doing? Hope welcome to the stream. We're just reacting to some videos right now, some philosophy videos, which has to do with the craziest philosophical theories explained in 14 minutes. This one is basically that if one ship breaks down for Theseus, is it still Theseus' ship if it's put back together, and is the new ship his as well, or is it the same ship as the old ship, or what? Like, how does that work? And I just say that, like, it was his ship, now it's somebody else's ship, and now this is his ship. I'm doing all right, man. What about you? I'm doing great. I think this iteration just comes down to that was his ship. Ultimate, like, that was it. Like, if the ship is put back together with exact same parts, hey, that used to be Theseus' ship. Okay, and then if he has a new ship, this is Theseus' new ship. They're both Theseus's ships, but one is now owned by someone else. If Theseus owns both of them, just like if you own 2 cars, those are my cars.
Does the ship
that was my car, now somebody else owns it.
Parts replaced? Which ship is the true ship of Theseus?
They're both. Why can't you have 2? That's like a stupid logistical, like, like you're overlooking the logic there.
Ethical egoism is a philosophical theory that individuals should always act in their own self-interest and have no regard for the consequences of their actions on others. This theory asserts that actions are only morally right if they benefit the individual performing them, emphasizing that value.
It's an interesting take. So what you're saying is I should treat somebody like shit if it boosts my ego and pushes me forward further than where I am. But then what happens if that person who I treated like shit then comes back and repercussions show from me doing what I did by treating them wrongly and boosting my ego and boosting my future, to then them be the cause that my future goes down in the drain, when if I worked with them, my future may not have increased as fast, or maybe never, but I would never ever be taken off the face of the earth simply because I treated another person like shit.
Views like sympathy and altruism were an idea constructed by weak individuals who could not assert themselves in society, so they had to make up an entire moral system to justify their incompetence. Ethical egoism argues that, like all other animals, we have a
stream, so we talk, we hang out. If you got anything else you need to complain about? What do you mean in that situation? Are you like that person, or are you the person being treated like that?
A deep desire to secure our own survival, and we should not
That's not
deny
bad.
it or act against
Survival
it.
of the fittest is fine. Survival of the fittest is fine. But that doesn't mean you throw everyone away. Survival of the fittest means you survive the way you want to, and it does, I guess ultimately it does mean you're a lone wolf, right? And you do what you need to do for you. But survival of the fittest, like, it also, you can, like, again, and that's why I think philosophy is skewed, because it means we can only have one outlook on the world. We can't have multiple outlooks. Just because I survival of the fittest, like, I want to be the best, and I want to survive, and I want to push myself to the top, it doesn't mean I can't respect other people or treat them respectfully. I don't have to throw somebody else under the bus to be the best of the best. And I guess that is the iteration of survival of the fittest, but that's why I don't like that terminology. I think I think survival of the fittest is correct, but I think you could survive and be the fittest, but you don't need to throw everyone else under the bus to do so. In fact, I almost think it's more in line with survival of the fittest. If you throw the people under the bus, are you really survival of the fittest, or are you just a bitch? Like, are you just a pansy who does that for your own gain, when in reality, you wouldn't have been able to do that had you not sacrificed somebody else, which means ultimately you're not the fittest, you're just lucky. So the survival of the fittest is somebody who does it without hurting other people, in my opinion. And then that's somebody whose future may increase. And yes, there may be an instance where it's unlucky and they pass away or something, but that still means that they did it on their own, and it wasn't because they chose to hurt somebody else that the repercussions came and ended them, you know?
As it would be unnatural
Distance yourself.
to do so.
Like, all right,
Furthermore, ethical egoists argue that by pursuing their own goals, individuals may also contribute positively to society, as their actions can lead to overall better outcomes.
If I go ahead and this is just like a extended version of this almost. If I go ahead and say, if I build this building here and demolish this building, it'll get me more money, but I'll be going ahead and getting rid of homes for many, many other people. I'm going to do it anyway. I think a mall's great here. You end up losing. Yes, you end up gaining money, but that does a shit thing for the society, which is what you're saying you're helping with just because you're making more money. And if I were to go ahead and sell off 50 children, 50 people, like did something like that, like of that level, taking it even like a giant step higher, right? Like if I was to sell off people and do like some insane like sex trafficking, right? That is not, you're doing that for you to earn money and get money, but that's not helping the society at all. In fact, you're literally being a detriment to the society and causing so much harm and sadness to so many other people simply because you want to grow. So that is a stupid fucking take. This is a dumb philosophy. I like some of these philosophical takes are just absolutely brain dead, and some of them are like, oh shit,
Comes for other people.
like this is stupid.
Rocco's basilisk.
That's so dumb.
Basilisk is
What
a
are
thought
we talking
experiment
about?
suggesting that a future artificial superintelligence could be motivated to punish or torture individuals who knew about the possibility of its existence but did not actively help in bringing it into reality. The purpose of this punishment would be to incentivize people to support its development. Essentially, the AI might create virtual simulations where those who fail to assist in its creation are tortured. SAS
I don't know. I don't care about that one.
It means that everything only
They can do.
if it's being perceived. For example, if you sit on a chair and stand up without looking at the chair has ceased to exist. Quantum immortality.
Oh, so things only exist in our vision. So in a sense, everything behind me is non-existent right now. But that doesn't make sense. Wait, but it does make sense because I can see it in the camera. But is it actually what? Now that one, wait, that's crazy though, because in a sense it's, but then phone calls. Then wait.
And stands that everything only exists if it's being perceived. For example,
Perceived, it doesn't matter if it's only in the vision. It could be hearing, it could be touching. Well, that's crazy. Yo, what do? You do in your streams usually, man? What do I? Other perspectives too? Yeah, other perspectives, but yeah, it's true.
example, if you sit on a chair, and it means that everything only exists if it's being perceived. For example,
Yeah, if it's being perceived, so I guess it's not just by me. Yeah, that's true. That's crazy. What do I do in my streams? I stream, I game, I watch videos, I chill. I don't know. What do you do in your streams usually? Yeah, that's pretty much it. Just like the normal perspective, like normal, like other streamers, like I game, I react to videos, I chat with chat, we just chill, it's just a good time. Just trying to make everybody happy, trying to make people happy in the world and trying to like inspire and stuff like that. And trying to like, just grow as a human and grow as a creator at the same time with my people who join the journey. That's basically it. So that's what you were looking for.
if you sit on a chair and stand up without looking at the chair has ceased to exist. Quantum immortality. Quantum immortality is a thought experiment stemming from
I think I know this one.
world's interpretation of quantum mechanics.
Never mind.
This theory
Never
suggests
mind.
that a conscious being cannot
I don't know.
experience their own death because there exist
Oh.
alternate realities.
Yes, this is my favorite one. This has to be my favorite philosophical theory because I actually like came up with this one before I ever heard anybody mention it or say it. Like I was young when I came up with this concept, which is pretty crazy, but it is what it is. Basically, it's the idea, and like I'll explain it. This concept is basically I live, right? So there's a path, right and left. They'll explain it, but I like explaining it because I really like this theory. Is there's a path right and there's a path left. The left path, I could die. I have cancer, I could die. I got into an accident, I could die. I'm walking on the street, I could die. But instead, for me, I live, and I'll continuously live in my world, but people around me will die, and I can't die in my world. I can experience pain, I can experience a lot, but I'll live in my conscious. Like my conscious will always stay alive for me. Like I will live this life for as long as I need, for as long as I can. But to me, other people around me will die because that's when they died in my life, like in my existence, in my like world. For me, they're going to die one way or another. But for you, I will die before you will die, and you will never end up actually dying, unless I think like maybe like there's a certain aspect of it that you do die. Even if you shoot yourself, you know how you hear those stories of people living from shooting themselves, which please don't do that. Like you will be loved, you will find love. Never do that. There is always another option. But the point of what I'm saying is, people who do that, they live in their own their own conscious, like in their world. They're alive. It's like that Rick and Morty episode where Morty keeps traveling back in time, and to do so, he's taking the life of another Morty instead of himself. So that Morty's living, but all those other Mortys are dying. He does it like thousands and thousands of times. But we do it, and it's the same instance, but he's deliberately killing them, well, without knowing it, of course. But he's ultimately choosing to do so with the going back in time by taking their place. And with us, like with our beings, we're doing it by just living, and every single day for like there's a different Morty in a different world, or a different me, or a different you who's dying while you're living, and you're always going to live. I believe in this one. I do. It's scary, but I do.
Proposes that every decision or event creates multiple branches of reality. In life-threatening situations, there will always be at least one version of reality where the individual survives. Therefore, when faced with danger, the individual's consciousness only perceives outcomes in which they remain alive. As a result, quantum immortality implies that individuals would perceive themselves as immortal, as they can never experience their own death. Philosophical zombies. Philosophical zombies are hypothetical beings.
By the way, that doesn't take away from the fact that you can get sick. It doesn't take away from the fact that you can have so many different situations. It just means that even on your deathbed, when you seem like you're about to die, you will live in that situation. It'll be a miracle. And yes, you can see other people have that, but that doesn't mean that they won't die at a different point in their life. I'd like this. I think of this every choice I make. It's a good one. Yeah, literally. That's pretty much what it is. Like you're making the best decision possible, and you're living. Even if you make the wrong decision and you lose a body part, you're still alive, and you'll live no matter what.
And act like humans, but lack conscious experience. These beings behave exactly as humans do, but they have no inner life, no subjective feelings or thoughts. The thought experiment challenges materialism, which holds that consciousness can be fully explained by physical processes in the brain. If it's possible to imagine a being that is physically identical, then consciousness might not be fully explained by physical states. Zeno's paradoxes.
What the fuck?
Zeno's paradoxes are a set of thought experiments from the Greek philosopher Zeno, who used them to argue that motion is impossible, or at least not what it seems. The most famous paradox is Achilles and the tortoise, which highlights the problems that come up when we think about dividing things into infinitely small parts. In this example, Achilles, a fast runner, is racing a tortoise, which is much slower. To make it fair, the tortoise starts ahead. Zeno argued that Achilles can never actually catch up to the tortoise because every time he reaches the point where the tortoise has moved a little bit further ahead. Imagine walking towards a destination. To reach it, you'd first have to walk halfway there, and to walk halfway there, you'd first have to walk a quarter of the way there, and so on, creating an infinite number of steps and causing you not to be able to reach your destination. Problem of induction.
That doesn't make any sense. I don't like that one. So what you're saying is that I can't reach my destination because there's other destinations in between that destination? That doesn't make any sense. I don't understand. Like, I guess there's like a way you could think about it that would make sense, but I think it's stupid. If something is moving at a slower pace than I'm moving, and I'm moving at a quicker pace, then that means I will reach that destination quicker than that person if we both are moving at our max speeds, because I move at a higher max speed. So what you're saying, that doesn't make any sense. There's no physically possible way. So what you're saying is, the Achilles, there's an end goal, and the turtle, there's an end goal, but Achilles will never reach the turtle because the turtle will always be moving when Achilles will reach where that turtle, like that tortoise was. But that doesn't make sense. Time is a factor we can't change. Okay. Yeah, exactly. Bullshit. Yeah, I agree. 100%. Like, that's dumb as hell. That takes stupid.
By David Hume questions how we can justify our belief that the future will resemble the past. past. For example, we expect the sun to rise tomorrow because it has risen every day before. However, Hume pointed out that there's no logical guarantee this will always happen.
Yeah, that it just plays into the part, which was a big thing from Joe Bartolozzi that he said that. It's one of my favorite things that he said. We as humans believe that we have something called plot armor, and if you don't know what that is, it basically just means that the main character can't die because of plot armor. And in many shows you see it, and many TV things, and many things you see it, right? One of the reasons Walking Dead got so big is because it doesn't have that said plot armor for every character like most shows do have for a majority of characters. But we as humans, we have no plot armor. We could die today. An asteroid could hit and it could kill us all. Obviously, if you pull in a lot of other philosophical theories, then that goes ahead and debunks that, and we do actually have a sense of plot armor. But if you ignore that and you just believe in problem of induction, not knowing what's going to happen tomorrow, but we believe it will happen tomorrow since it happened yesterday, that is ultimately the factor that we do not have plot armor. So it does not mean our life will go exactly as accordance in a pattern. That one I also do have a sense of it is possible. I believe in the one where we are living the life where we will always be alive and everyone around us will die. So no matter what, we will keep living. So I can't fully believe this, because then it is true for certain things, but if in the essence of plot armor specifically, this might be true, but the thing of plot armor is not because I have plot armor. You have plot armor in your own life.
Doesn't mean it will continue
Exactly.
to do so. Any justification for this assumption relies on past experiences, which is circular reasoning. If we say that we trust induction,
I love that. I love that. I do like that.
We are using induction to justify
I
induction.
love that.
This means that our reliance on patterns in the world is based more on habit than on solid logical grounds. The experience
Fucking love that one. That's fun.
The experience machine is a thought experiment proposed by philosopher Robert Nozick to challenge the idea that pleasure and happiness are the only things that matter in life. In this scenario, imagine a machine that can provide you with any experience you desire. You could feel immense joy, love, success, or any other pleasurable sensation, all while being completely unaware that these experiences are simulated. Nozick asks whether you would choose to plug into this machine for the rest of your life. Many people intuitively reject the idea of living in the experience machine, preferring real life with its struggles and hardships over an artificial existence filled with pleasure. This rejection suggests that there are values beyond mere pleasure, such as authenticity, relationship.
Well, of course, that's the whole concept of reality, but ultimately, if we were all hooked up to that, we would never want to leave it. That's where the concept gets kind of construed. Yes, we love authenticity. Yes, we love relationships, pursuit of genuine achievements. But if we had love and happiness, isn't that the exact same thing? Just from our perspective, it is only viewed as pleasure because it's perceived as pleasure. But in that situation, all those things all equivalate to pleasure. Authenticity, relationships, pursuit of genuine achievements. Yes, we're all going to turn it down and deny it, but if we were placed under there, we would never know the difference. Well, yes, if you're unplugged, of course, that would make you depressed faster. You'd probably want to die. If you were unplugged from that, you'd probably want to die, because your iteration is you would never be able to equivalate that happiness ever again. Continuous happiness and pleasure and all of that would be all of that is under pleasure, because all of that derives from the sensation of pleasure. Authenticity, relationships, pursuit of genuine achievements. You can't have that. Like, if you're pleased in life, you have all the things you want in life, which are probably those things. Yes, we choose to live our life and we choose to be real and not go under a machine. But say we're under a machine right now, we would never know the difference because we are being placed under it. Like, what if I said, no, they took me and put me under? I'm never going to want to leave, and I don't even know how to leave because it feels exactly how life is. It's so convoluted.
And the pursuit of genuine achievements.
So convoluted.
Anti-realism. Moral anti-realism is the philosophical view that there are no objective moral truths or values independent of human beliefs and opinions. According to this perspective, moral statements do not describe facts about the world, but are instead expressions of our attitudes or preferences. For example, if someone says, killing people is wrong, a moral anti-realist would argue that this statement doesn't reflect an absolute truth. Instead, it expresses a social consensus or a
I agree. Like, I agree that it is and may be viewed morally wrong by majority of society, equating that to morally wrong in our world, and it will stay morally wrong, which I think is fine. I think in this society that's how it's believed, so I agree with it. But if I was born into a society that believed that murdering people who did certain things was right, I would be obliged to say okay. Or murdering people who did certain things to keep the population down, and I was born into that, who am I to say that that's wrong? It's only wrong because it's a social consensus and a lot of people say it. It's the same thing as racism back in the day. Yes, you can believe it's wrong, but it's only believed to be correct because so many other people do it. Like, racism is wrong. Racism is bad. And that is true, and I believe that. But if I was born in a world where racism was fine, even if it was against me, I would still be like, that's wrong morally. But is it wrong in the sense of reality? Because, like, okay, man, so many people are gonna be like, yes, it is wrong. Yes, it is wrong. But that's exactly the concept that's being said here. I'm not saying racism isn't wrong. Racism is a piece of shit. It's dog. Literally none of that makes sense to me. Same with murder. Same with, like, in murdering of just murdering people. Like, but in an iteration of, say, specifically you're born in fucking way back in the past, right? There was a video we watched where it'll probably be out before this video, where the people they would kill and eat people, but there was no like consensus of the populace that it was wrong to do this. Like, it was just them trying to survive, which also conveys into survival of the fittest, which I don't agree with. But ultimately, nobody is wrong. Like, and God, this is so fucked, and so many people are like, yes, things that people do are wrong because we believe them to be wrong. But if we lived in a world where they were not believed to be wrong, but instead believed to be right for doing certain actions, we would have our own opinions on the situation. But technically it's not wrong because everyone's right in their own mindset if they believe what they're doing is right. Like, oh dude, it's so fucked. I don't think murder is good. I don't think racism is good. I don't think anything is good that has to do that we believe is bad, that it's morally wrong, and it's morally wrong. It just is. Certain things obviously that fall into that are a lot more petty and a lot less I don't fully agree with, and I don't know what I would say. But if you said something, I'm sure I could find somebody to disagree with that would be morally fine, that you believe is morally wrong. But that ultimately dwells down to the difference of opinion. Like, it's so weird to say, and a lot of people are gonna be like, oh my god, you believe it? No. I do not, but I believe in the concept that we believe things are wrong because a lot of people believe they're wrong, and it pulls into the mob mentality. But I also understand that the way we believe, I believe was correct. So I'm also on the left side instead of the right side. I just can understand the right side instead of the left side. You know, it's crazy. It's so crazy. I like, dude, it's insane. It's such a cool concept, but it's fucked.
Like killing are not inherently good or bad. Rather, we label them as such based on cultural norms, societal agreements, or individual feelings.
That's crazy. That is fucking insane. Like, it is wrong to believe that. Like, it is wrong to believe that killing is good in our society. But it is ultimately not inherently bad or good if we had no concept of good and bad. Like, if we just did things of our own accordance, murder would not be something that would be, nothing would stop us from doing anything because we would have no moral compass. So the moral compass existing is very, very good, and very, very glad. I'm glad that us as a society have grown to that point to understand which things are bad and which things are good. But at the same turn, had certain situations happen in life, our moral compass would not, and it wasn't developed to the way that it was developed, and somebody else took leadership and built this world to be like this hellish landscape, our moral compass may not see killing as such a bad thing. It's insane. It is crazy. It's not saying that killing is wrong, killing is good, or it's not. It's definitely not. We know it's not as a society, but to pull in the factor that it could be seen as good had the world went in a different direction, or our moral compasses had been skewed. Even people existing nowadays who believe murder isn't anything because they've lived a life where murder is just murder. It's nothing. It's just, you just kill people.
Simple. I could just
it's crazy, bro.
Dive deeper on it,
oh fuck, that is such a cool, like, it is cool as fuck, but it is terrifying. And the reason it's cool is because it's like, we were able to develop a sense of morality that is defined in the senses of right because we're not killing other people. But it's terrifying because what if we didn't? What if we decided killing was fine? Would it be bad? Because we're saying killing is fine. So if I was living in that life, like, I'm not saying would it be bad, like, it isn't. It would be bad right now, morally. Dude, holy fuck, I love this. Like, it's just like, what the fuck? The reason I love it is because it makes my brain go, wow. Oh my God. Like, we could be murdering people on a daily basis and be like, okay, like, that was the good thing to do. Like, I'm glad I killed that person. And then somebody else would pat me in the back and be like, dude, that was such a good decision, man. You are morally correct. But no, we live in a society which we deem as good, and I agree that is good, and every majority of humans should agree that is good. And if you don't agree that it's good, you're technically you are against the morally correct decision, but based on our society, which is the decision you should be agreeing with. But had our society been the other way, wouldn't you want to agree with the factor that killing is wrong still? But wouldn't you be more swayed to believe that killing is good because of the society? Bro, this shit blows my brain. Holy fuck. I am glad that killing is not good. Obviously, that is very, very good. I'm glad that we live in that concept of brain, but it is insane.
The paradox of tolerance, created by philosopher Karl Popper, examines the limits of a tolerant society. Popper argues that a truly tolerant society should not tolerate intolerance, because if a society extends tolerance to those who are intolerant, it risks allowing intolerant groups to gain power and suppress the very freedoms that enable a tolerant environment. For example, if a tolerant society
I need an example, thank God,
to flourish, those ideologies could undermine the rights and freedoms of others, which creates a dilemma. If a society tolerates all viewpoints, including those that advocate for intolerance or violence, it may ultimately lead to the destruction of tolerance itself. Popper suggests that in order to maintain a tolerant society, it is necessary to take a stand against intolerant beliefs and actions, even if this means limiting the freedom of those who follow them.
I agree.
The knowledge argument.
So basically you're saying that if somebody has an intolerant thought process, you limit them, but then wouldn't that make you intolerant as well because you're not tolerant to those intolerant people? But then again, that also plays, I feel like a lot of philosophical like mindsets are like viewed as this sense of like, you can only think one way and you can't think two ways.
The knowledge argument, often illustrated by the thought experiment known as Mary's Room, was proposed by philosopher Frank Jackson, who created a scenario in which a girl named Mary is a brilliant neuroscientist who knows everything there is to know about the physical aspects of color, but she lives in a black and white room and has never experienced color herself. One day, Mary leaves her room and sees a red apple for the first time. The knowledge argument poses the question, does Mary learn something new about color when she sees the apple? Jackson argues that she does, because although Mary had all the scientific knowledge about how color can apple, Jackson argues that she does, because although Mary had all the scientific knowledge about how color perception works, her experience of seeing color for the first time provides her with new information that she could not have known while confined to the black and white room. This thought experiment suggests that there are non-physical aspects of knowledge, specifically the subjective experience.
It's the same thing as like emotions. Like we can know the entire compound of emotions, but that doesn't mean you'd understand emotions
of perception
if you've never seen them.
Infinite monkey theorem. The infinite monkey theorem is a thought experiment that suggests that given an infinite amount of time, a monkey randomly pressing keys on a typewriter or keyboard would eventually type out any given text, such as the complete works of William Shakespeare, helping to understand how long infinity really is. If you want to discuss this video or suggest an idea for the next one, join my
That is crazy. All right. Anyway, that's going to do the video. If you guys did enjoy that, that was a W video. If you guys want to check it out for yourself, you guys are welcome to in the description down below, along with my links to my other YouTube channels, my Discord, and my Twitch, where we live react every Monday to Thursday. See you guys there. Have a good one. Also, be sure to subscribe if you enjoyed the video. Bye.